Hi guys, welcome to Digital TechJoint. I hope everybody is doing good, and I really want to thank you for all the views on my channel and also the wonderful comments that you leave in the channel after watching my videos. Really appreciate. In this video tutorial, I am going to show you the step-by-step procedure on creating a full-fledged blog application using Visual Studio 2022 and the latest .NET 9. So before we proceed, let us see what are we going to develop. So here is the home page of the blog application. Welcome to blog application. So basically this application allows you to post your blog and it allows you to comments or your on your different blogs and also help you to manage the CRUD application, that is adding the blog, editing, deleting and viewing the blogs. This also has the functionality of login and register that you can see on the top right hand side. So basically it has the users, it has the comments, and it also has the main blog application. Now, what we are going to do is that in this stage for phase one, I'm going to create the structural thing of creating this application. You will, whatever you see, you'll be able to build with me. And later I will extend and enhance this application to create blog with images and, and more advanced level where we have the blog maker and checker concept. We will also implement the rich text control that will help you to create a blog with images inside and also embed images in your blog post. So let's proceed with the demo first. So this is the home page where you can see the blogs are displayed in a grid format, and it also as a title, it has the blog is created by whom and on what date it was published, some description, and then finally a read more button that will help you to see the actual contents. So now when I click on read more, here you can see the title of the blog, the name of the publisher, and or the name of the author and the date, along with the content and option to add your comments. Now, the home page will display all the blog, whereas when you want to create a blog or post a blog, you will need to log in. So the moment I click on create post, it will push me to the login screen, whereas this posts, it will show all the posts that are there in the application. However, that will also require a login. So what we'll do is that in order to create a login, we can simply first register. So I can just add a registration over here. So let me have Bob as a user, Bob at yahoo.com, and let me have a simple password and click on register. So once I registered Bob, here you can see welcome Bob is over here and with an option to log out. So this is also dynamically managed. So when you're not logged out, no logged in, it says to register and login. And once you log in, the login and register button is now not visible. And here you can see the logout with the name. This indicates that the users have logged in, and also it manages the sessions over here. So now once the Bob user is logged in, here you can see when he clicks on create, he'll be able to create the blog, whereas he'll be able to also see all the posts that are there in the application. Now here I've not implemented the role based access, like admin only should have the access and user should be able to post it. That we will enhance it in further in our project. So we'll create a full-fledged blog application later with all the advanced feature. But as of now, we'll create a basic where you'll be able to create a CRUD application and plus also use some of the session and advanced features. So here you can see Bob is able to see all the posts and he'll be also able to create it. This screen and this screen is the same. So now when I click on blog, let me open my website, Digital Tech Join, and let me copy the blogs from there because I had created a couple of blogs over there in my site. So here you can see there are a lot of blogs. Like, let me copy this top measures to enhance the mobile application. So I just copy this title, come back to my application, paste the title over here, and let me also copy some of the contents and let me enter the publish date. So publish date cannot be future date. I've added that validation over here. You can see. And now I'm going to select a date which is not the future date and click on save. So now this entry is added over here. Plus it shows who is the author Bob, and here you can see the details. You can see the details. You can add this command. You can also say edit it if you want to edit. Then you can also delete the blog. So these features are already there. Now, when you go to the home page, you'll be able to see that, this blog is added in the home page as well. Now, when I click on read more, here I can, user can add the comments, for example, this article. And when I click on submit, here you can see it's been added. I can add one more user, more comments. So like that, I can keep commenting, like user can come and add their comments. So for comments, the user doesn't need to be logged in as of now, but we will future enhance this application and also force the user to log in order to do the comments. Here is the open comments. So you can see the name of the user and the date and the comments that is entered. Now here you can see that this completes our current blog application. Now this is what we are going to do it. We have shown you the registration login, displaying of the blog in a nice format in the home screen, option to comments, and then also all the posts where you can edit, delete, and view those blog details. So now let's go to the practical session. Now let's open Visual Studio and start developing this application. So let me proceed with opening Visual Studio 2022. I'm just going to right click and open the project, open the studio. And here I'm going to say create new project. I'm going to select ASP.NET Core Web App Model View Controller Template. Click on next. I'm going to name as my blog app. Okay, and this is the path where you want to save your project. This is your solution name. Click on next. Here I'm going to select .NET 9. And for now, I'm going to untick configure for HTTPS and click on create. So first thing that you're going to do is that create a model classes. So here we have the models, and first thing we are going to do is create a model class, then create a connection string. So we are going to use, so we are using Visual Studio 2022 and we are using the latest .NET version. Okay, and here you can see this is the Visual Studio version that I installed recently, 17.13.1. And we are going to use SQL Studio Management 20. You can use this, it's freely downloadable. You can download this version 20.2. We are going to use this database management for storing our data in our database. So I'll just connect to my database. Here we will creating a new database, but we will create that through the migration command. So let's open our application. As I told you, the first step is that we need to create the model. So first, for a blog app, primarily we need the user, that is the author. Then we need the blog post, that is the main blog post class. And finally, we need the comments. So for now, we'll restrict this into three models. Later, we will create model view for login and registration. So let's go ahead and create the class. So first, right click on the model and then create on class. The first class I'm going to create is user, and then I'm going to define the properties. So this will be my property. So let me add it public property and int id, and this will be your get and set. So similarly, we will define properties for name. So this is the username. So say public string. This will be name, and then we'll have the same property set get and set. And I'm going to do it similar for other fields like email, hash, password hash, and created date. So we have ID, email, and then I'm going to also include email, string hash password, and created date. So we'll have the common universal created date set as default for created date. So this is the user class. Now let us proceed with the second model, that is the blog. So let's name this as blog post and add this properties over here as well. So this is the properties for blog post. We have the blog ID, title, content, and the published date. Okay. Now let's proceed with the comments. Let's create one more class and call it as comments. Okay, so comments here, we have comments over here. We have ID, contents, what are the content author. So in this case, author is user and created by, and then we have the post ID as well. So here we have the post ID, but basically this is nothing but the foreign key. And this is blog post, not just post, it's blog post, the class that we created. Now, if you notice, this is the foreign key reference of the post on which the comment will be added. Similarly, in our blog post, we need to add the foreign key references. So here we will have user as a foreign key reference as well as the comments. So here you can see I've now included in the blog post, I've included user ID, which is a foreign key, and then here this will be comments. So now we can see we have created the model class. The first is the user where we have ID, name, email, hash, password hash, and created date. Then we have blog post. Now here we have blog post where we have title, the content of the blog, the published date, and then finally we have foreign key reference of user ID, the user class, and also since this is a blog post, we'll have it if it may have comments. So that is why we have the collection class as a class defined as a collection which will hold all the comments of this particular in this particular blog. Since there can be multiple, we have used I collection. So now similarly, we go to the comments. And the comments, we have the comment ID, then we have the content of the comment, the author that is the user. Then we have created date when the author had posted or when the user posted the comments. And then we have finally, we have a foreign key relation to the post on which the comment was added. And then we have the entire blog post class reference as well. So with this, we have created our model class, that is our entity. Now we'll proceed with the app setting and we'll define the connection string right over here. So here after the comma, we add this connection string. I'll just expand the workspace window. Here you can see the connection string, and the default connection string is the name of the connection string. We have the server. This is my server, that is Trinity Digital TechJoint. The database, I'm going to change it. It's going to say my blog DB. Okay. And then this trusted connection is through, multiple active result set is through, and finally this is very important, trust server certificate is as through. So this is the typical connection string that I have defined over here. So once we have the connection string added, we will have to add the DB context class and then also make some changes in our program CSS. So let's go ahead and add the DB connection class. So we're going to create a folder as data, and here I'm going to create a class called block DB context. So here is block DB context class, and inside this I'm going to create the connection. And before we do that, let's add some packages to our projects so that we'll be able to work with database. So here you can right click and click on NuGet package, and we will browse for entity framework core first. So here we have the entity framework core, Microsoft Entity Framework Core. We install this 9.0.2. Then we have the database. This got installed. We'll also install your entity framework code.sql server. We'll install that as well. Then we'll have entity framework tools. Let me just also add tools for migrations. Here you can see Microsoft Entity Framework code.tools. Basically, this we are going to use for migration commands. So yes, we're going to use this and we're going to install this as well. So now if you go click on install, you will see all these three as successfully installed. Here you can see. I'll just refresh. These are the components that installed. Now we'll go to a DB context class, and then we are going to add a colon and say DB context class. And here you can see, because we need to reference using Microsoft Entity Framework Core. So once that is added, just click the mouse over here, and here you can see select generate constructor DB contents with options. Now we will inject that connection string from our program file, but once this is done, we are going to also refer our model class using myblog app.models, and here we are going to use the DB context class. So we are going to say public DB set, and we're going to refer the blog post first, and we can decide what should be the name of the entity. We can just name this as blog post, and say get and set. Similarly, we will do that for users. Public DB set. This will be users class, and this will be my users. This will be get and set. And finally, we have comments. Public DB set comments. This will be my comments, and property get and set. So while we have defined this database table, so these are the three tables, and this will be the connection string. We also need to make sure that while the migration command is hit, while the database is created, we have a default admin user in our table user. So for that, what we're going to do is that while this is happening, while the model in migration command will be executed, I'm going to create protected override, and this will be void, and this will be on model creation. And here what I'm going to do is that add a default entry to our user table, which will be model builder dot entity. This will be user, and it has to validate as data, and say new user. This will be ID as 1, name as name as admin, email as admin@blog.com, and then password hashed underscore password, and finally created date, which is a part of the property. So you're going to add a default date and time, which will be year, month, day, hour, minutes and seconds, date, time, and this will be universal UTC. So this defines my default data. Okay, so now see, everything is done. Now only thing remaining is my program.cs. Now in program.cs, what I'm going to do is that add the connection string into our here. Before this view, before the app is built, we need to add a connection string. We're going to inject builder.services.add DB context. Here I'm going to say blog DB context, which is a class, and here I'm going to say options and lambda expression, and this will be options dot use SQL and builder dot configuration configuration dot get connection string, and here I'm going to pass the connection string name, that is default connection, which is defined in my app setting. So injecting this connection string from a program class. Now once this is done, we'll just rebuild it. So we have done everything for us to now run the migration command. So I'm going to close all and invoke the migration. So here, tool, NuGet package manager, here you have the management console here, right over here. I'll just zoom out a little bit and add the migration command. So here, so we have the model class, we have defined the DB context class, we have added the connection string, we have defined our database name, which will be my blog DB, and finally we have injected our connection string from the program.files. So now is the time to just execute the migration command, which will be add migration, and this will be my initial database. So I'm going to say initial database setup, click on enter. Build started and build is succeeded. Now you can see the migration folder is added, and inside that you'll see, I'll just so here you can see all the tables defined with the primary key, everything, and here you will have all the properties set. So now once the script is ready, it's time to execute and actually create a database. I'm going to say update database, build started and succeeded, and hopefully it will see the execution over here. It's getting executed, and finally we have it done without any exception. That's great. Okay, that means if I go to my database now and expand the database, I'll be able to see my blog database DB, and I'll be able to see also my tables, that is blog posts, comments, users, with all the fields that are defined in the model class. Here you can see everything is all set. A database is created, a comments table is created, a user table is created with all the required columns. Great. So one milestone completed with this, and now our application is ready. It's time for us to start coding. So now what we're going to do is that we will now close all this. The first thing that we are going to do is run this application. I know there's nothing in the application, but still we'll run to ensure that there's no exception. And we will going to create the main component first and gradually upgrade that. The first thing we are going to create is create a block controller. So this is my antivirus that is creating problem right now. I'll just disable it for some time, otherwise it will keep popping up. Fine, so now I've disabled it. This is the previous one. It will now display a new window. You can see, so this is our my blog app, and now we'll enhance the application. We'll close this, and here this is our project, my blog app, where we created the database and everything. Now it's time for us to create the controller class. So right click on the controller and add a controller. So we're going to add a controller and name this as MVC empty controller, and we'll name this as blog post. So here we have the blog post controller ready. Now we'll do a step-by-step approach. So first we're going to do is that create an method that will display all the blocks. For that, first we're going to reference the blog DB context class. So we are saying it's a private read only blog DB context, and this will be my context class. Then we are going to create a constructor CTOR tab, and here I'm going to refer blog DB context. This is my context class, and I'm going to initiate this underscore context. So context. So we have done this over here. So now our underscore context will have the reference of the database table, which we have defined in DB context class. This will be blog post. Okay. Coming back to over here, our first method that we are going to create is index. So we are going to use the same one, but we have make it async. So this will be public async action result. So this will be task since it is async. And now in this index method, we will be calling our blog. So here we are going to say add blog post, and this will be await since it is async, and underscore blog post dot dot include. So now why are we including this another entity called user? Because users, so users basically author. So whenever we are fetching in the blog, we also need to fetch the author details. So that is why we are including this. It's like selecting data from two tables using the joins. So here we have async. So this is a code. So this code will fetch the blog list. Along with the blog list, it is also fetch the user details. So once that is done, we are just simply going to pass that in the view. So this method now will fetch all the blog information. What we're going to do is that right click on this and add the view for it. So this will be index. So let the name be as index. And here you can see now we have views, we have blog post and this index. What I'm going to do is that here I'm going to write some razor pages code that will display the data and view it over here. So this will hold the data and the view that we'll be creating will have the list of blogs. The first thing we're going to refer the model class. So this will be I enumerable and this will be blog post. Okay, and then here I'll have the code, razor page code. So here this is a code over here. It's a very simple explanation. So I'm just trying to save the time, but I'll just explain once again. So here we have created a button, which is ASP.action create. And this is the button class, and this will create a new post. This action that is ASP that is create is not yet created in a controller that we'll be creating when we create the blog code. Now here after that we have defined a table and which has the address of title name created by an action. Now, action is nothing but edit details, edit and delete. So once we define the address, we are going to do a for each loop on the model and display the title name. This is the username. So if you remember our model class that is blog post also has user. So if you go to our blog post, it also has a class reference foreign reference of user, and basis this only we are able to fetch the user.username, then publish date, and then finally we have these buttons. So we have placed the button and we have used asp.asp-route.id to pass ID of the blog post and do the following operations, that is details, edit and delete. So there are a lot of videos in my channel which explains this thoroughly. So let's go ahead now with this code. And if anybody wants more details, go visit my channel. There are a lot of CRUD related applications on ASP or VB.NET that I've created in detail explaining all these factors. Okay, now once our code is ready, we'll add a breakpoint over here and then we'll run the project. Right now we don't have any post, but we'll be able to see the listing page. So build started and succeeded. So here I have not added any links, so I'm just going to call it blog post and enter. So by default it will call the index. So here you can see, and now this is will have no entry, so it will be empty, but we'll be able to see the index. So this is how the page will look. Title name created by an action, and when I click on create, this is the error displayed because we have not yet created the object. So now let's proceed with the second part of the code, which will be our create. So we will take up the create as a code. So now we'll go and find out, like, and start entering the create method. So let's first define the create method. Public I action result create, and this will only return a view. So once this is done, we are going to say right click, add view, and just name it as create. So we add code for the create view. You can see blog post views index is created. Now the create, let's go back to blog post and now create the post method. We should actually save it. So this will be my HTTP post. Okay, and we will add the validation as well. Validate anti-forgery token, and then we define the post method async task I action result, and this will be create, and this will pass the blog post entity blog details. Fine. Now this is the post method. So now first thing we need to do is that ensure that the model is valid. Okay. So what we are going to do is that if model state is valid, and here we are going to say context dot add blog post, and now we have await save changes async, and then we redirect, sorry, and we redirect return redirect to action, and this will be our index page. So far everything looks good. This is block details, not blog post. This is block details over here. So here you can see, and then finally we return view, and this will be our blog details. So now this will obviously have some exception. I'll tell you why. So now before that, before I add the fixes over here, let me go and create the view. So we'll double click on the create view and just paste this. And I'm going to refer the model class over here. So this will be model, and this will be blog post. Okay. So here you can see we have simply created a title called create blog post. Then we have created a form, okay, which has ASP.action create that we create, and it's a post method. Then we have the class over here where we have title, and then we have the validations over here. Then we have the content where we are going to add the actual content, and make sure this is a text area for us to enter the content, and the row is 5. You can obviously increase to 6 and 7 as per your requirement. Then we have the publish date over here. So we have the date control over here. The type is date, and then we have a button submit and save post, and then there's a back which leads us to the listing page. Obviously this is the script added for validations. Okay, now this is our view. Now let us go ahead and run the application. I've added a breakpoint in create post, so let me enter. So this is a listing page. When I not create, I can see a simple page of title. So let me go to my website digitaltechjoint.com. In my website there are a lot of blogs that I've added, so we'll take up some of the titles from there. So let's say we pick up this, so we copy this, okay, and paste that over here. Then we go to the content, we just paste certain content over here, and then the publish date, let me take 1st March. Now when I click on save, what happens is that it will say that the model state is not valid. Now you can see it shows invalid for users, then it says invalid for comments, and rest all it is valid. So obviously comments won't be there as of now because we're creating a post, and we don't have the user right now because we have not created the functionality for login and registration and also to manage the session. So in this case, what we need to do is that since the model class includes this parameter, we will not be able to ignore it. But in the code, we can either map this as not mapped, but the better approach to do is that remove those entities that is expected from this class so that this model becomes valid. So how do you do that? First of all, since we don't have the login functionality right now, we will hard code the user details. For example, blog details and this user ID will be one, because if you recollected, while we created the migration class, we created a user by default and the ID was one. Here you can see the ID is one. So by default, we are passing admin. And for the model class validation, we will remove that while before we actually save that record. And that will do by adding this code model state dot remove user, then model state dot remove comments. These are the two things. Once we do this, let us now run the application once again. Here I'm going to type log create. Let's just, I'm going to copy that. I keep this separate so that it will be required. I'm going to copy this title and description, publish date, click on save. Now if you see the model status valid, you can see title, content, publish date, everything is valid. Now we should be able to see getting added, and it got successfully added and redirected to index page. And we can also see that the index page is showing the blog title, the name, the date it was published, and this action buttons. So two things we have created. One, we completed our listing page. We also completed creating a new blog. Now let's go ahead and write code to show the display, that is details. So now if you go below, what I'm going to do is that now I'm going to add code to display the details. Let's do that. So here I'm going to create public async task I action result, and this will be details, and I'm going to pass ID, that is the blog ID. This will be where post details. Let me say blog details, and this is await contest dot blog post dot include user dot include. Now this will also have the comments. Since it's a detail, it will also have the comments. Now basically what we'll do is that one is details. So here what we're going to do is that details over here means displaying the blog details page. So let us hold this for right now. Let's not create the details right now. Let's return view. First let's go to edit and delete, and then we'll come to details. So it's a step-by-step approach. So instead of details, let me go ahead and do the edit functionality for you right now. So that's easy. So let me just first create let me create a action public I action result, and this will be, you know, edit public async task I action result, edit, and this will take ID, since we need to pass the ID in order to fetch the details. And here I'm going to say where log details. This will be await contest dot log, okay, dot find async, and I'll pass ID. So I'm going to add a simple validation if log details equals to null. That means that no records are found, and I'm going to return not found. Else, I'm going to return the view. This will be block details. So I'm going to create a view out of this. So this will be add empty control view, and this will be edit. This will be this refer model blog post. So here I have pasted this laser code. It's similar to the creation form. Only thing is the action is edit and post, and then we have the hidden. Remember the input type hidden ID, which is passed when you click from the listing page. The value is passed is stored over here, and then we have all this defined, the title, class, and everything, which was there in the create post model. Now what we're going to do is that here we have created this view, but now we need to create the post method. So let's create that. So this will be our HTTP post, and validate empty grocery public async task action result, edit in ID, and we need to pass the blog post, and this will be blog details. This code will be similar to the one for create, except this will update. So now let's go ahead and write the code. Okay, now we simply add some validation over here. ID not equals to blog post blog details. Blog details dot ID. That means it is not part of the database. So we are going to say not found. This is the first validation. And then after this validation, we are going to simply pass remove the model state, because we need to do that. Otherwise, we'll have a similar error. Dot remove user, and then we remove the comments, and then here we check if the model state is valid. So we are going to say underscore contest dot update, and this will be our blog details. Then we have await underscore context dot save changes. So it will be async, and then we are going to return it to return redirect to action and name index. So, and finally, we say return view blog details. So now let's test this. Let's put a breakpoint over here and just run the application. We call the blog post. Now remember this edit already has a code. You can see on the bottom left hand side, it says localhost slash blog post edit and one. That is the one ID will be passed for this. And once you pass that, here you can see this view is displayed successfully with the title, with the content that I pasted and the publisher date. Now let us change something over here. Let's say update it. Okay, and this is a code. So I'm going to change the publisher date to 28th of Feb. Click on update. The moment I click update, the post method is called. So ID is valid. Now we are removing this. Now if you see the blog details as all information, it does have the user ID also, but it doesn't have the user ID over here because since we don't have the session managed over here. So what we need to do is that we still pass the default ID over here. We will remove all this default, IDs once we have the login and registration in place. Let's again click on edit. Log and we click on edit. We change the publisher date and we add pass AWS certified associate. We say updated. Okay. We click on update. We come over here and now let's see a model state. It is valid. Everything is valid. So it will go ahead, update the changes and then return back to our index. Here you can see it got changed, even a publisher date got changed. So our edit functionality is working. Let's quickly go ahead and proceed the delete functionality. So let me go and add the delete method over here. So public async tasks and action result delete and I'm going to pass int ID. So here I'm going to create blog details. So what we're going to do is at the moment anyone clicks on the delete, we're going to show the details where we show the blog title and the user details as well, who had created that with the date and with the confirmation whether to delete or to cancel. So here in this code, we will have to include the user details as well. So what we're going to do is that we will say await underscore context dot blog post enter dot include, and this will be my pay dot user. So here I've included it. And here I need to fetch only this ID, not all details. So first default async, and here I'm going to say P is a lambda expression that I'm going to use. Dot ID equals to the ID that is passed in the parameter. So first we're going to fetch it, and then we have to validate it if blog details equals to null. That means it is not found. Okay, and then we'll proceed with returning this details to the view. So I'm going to say return view, and this will be log details. Okay, now let's create the view for this. This is delete. I'm going to just right click and say add view and then details over here. Okay, just reference the model and paste this code over here. So this is nothing, just confirm delete, and then div. This is a class over here, and then they were displaying, are you want to delete this post? We are showing the title author, that is a user, and publish date, and then we have this form controller, that is a blog post. Action method is delete confirmed, which I've still not created, and method is post, so we are passing the ID, and there's a button called delete and cancel. Now let's create this method confirm delete confirm in our blog post. So this will be my HTTP post, and this async task and action result. This will be delete confirm int ID. Here I can also define the action name, for example, comma action name, and this will be my delete confirmed. So inside this, what we're going to do is that we are going to first fetch the details is similar to edit. So here we have already written edit C blog details. We'll just copy that over here. So first you want to find the post. If the post is not found, you want to say not found. Okay. And if the post is found, that is it's a valid ID, then what are we going to do is that we are going to delete it. That is my dog Rocky. So let me just contest dot blog post dot remove, and this is blog details. And then we are going to say await underscore context dot save changes async. And then we are going to redirect return redirect to action. This would be name of index. Everything looks simple, but we will going to add a functionality. Once the login is implemented, we ensure there's a valid user coming in. So this is, let me put a breakpoint over here now, and let's add one more block, and then let's delete that. All right, log details, create post, log post to be deleted. Right now it's no validation, and take the future data as well. So now you can see it's valid. Now it's first when it get created. So the post is created. Now I click on delete. So here you can see the delete form is displayed with author name and the date. And I'm going to click on delete button. So it found this blog details. Now it's going to delete it and return back to the listing page. So delete functionality. So now we have edit ready. We have the listing page ready now. We have the edit button, delete button, and the details have not shown yet. I will work on the details now, because details of this blog means you need to show the complete details of the blog, also with an option to create the comments. So we will do that, because there an option to create the comments. For that we need to activate the comments controller, which right now I've not created. So let's do one thing. Let's partially create the details screen, where we will have the option to add comments, but it will not function till we create the comments controller. So now let's go ahead and create the detail screen. So here's the detail screen. So now first we're going to do is that fetch the details. So we have log details variable. Now here I'm going to say underscore context dot blog post. Now here first thing I'm going to include the user table. Okay, so this will become my user, because every blog will have a user, because user has created the blog. And I also need to include the comment this time, because this is a detail screen where you will be able to see the details of the blog as well as the user commented on the blog. So we'll have to include even the user table, sorry, comments table. And finally, since we are fetching one particular blog, so I will need to fetch pass the ID, and this will be p dot id equals to. So this is how I fetch the entire details. Obviously, I need to add a validation. If block details equals to null, then say return not found. And finally, we say return view. So we already have the view over here, and we pass this. I need to create the view for this details. So let's go ahead and do that. Right click, add view and details. Now, first for the model, link the model. So this is blog post. Now so here I'm going to paste the entire code over here. This is a eraser view code over here. Now I'll explain this. I'm just going to remove this. Okay. So what we are going to do is that first the main container is a div class container. Within inside the container, okay, so there are two things. First is like the first main container over here, the second container, which is row justified content center. We want the block to be in center aligned. Then we have the columns defined call MD8. Okay, and then after that we have certain CSS code, Bootstrap code that is written. So first, primarily we have the model title. Then we have the class where just below the title we are displaying a text muted, a tiny little text that shows that blog is created by which user. So we are using the model username, and also we are showing published on date, that is published on model published it with this date format, MMMD YYY format. After that, we are creating horizontal line. Then we are showing the actual content in the class content over here, model.content. And then we are showing the headers as comments. Now here what we're doing is we are checking if the model has comments. If it has, the blog does not have any comments yet. Okay, if it has comment, then it will show that in the listing format it is do a for each loop with the comments, because our blog post also has a comment as a foreign key, as I showed you. I like to show you because this is important. If you go to blog post, here you can see collection comments. So basis this only, it will loop in. If there are comments multiple, it will loop through, and here it will display the author, the username who had commented, and then when they had commented, that date, okay, along with the contents. So if there is no comments, it will say no comments yet. Now after that, we are adding one more horizontal line, and then we are saying add comments. So this is a form again, which has controller comments, which is not yet created, and then there's an action create, which will create. So once you enter your name and the content and submit, it will go and add the comments under this blog. So here you can see hidden field, input it in post ID. So this is the ID. This is nothing but the basically blog ID on which these comments will be associated. So I hope this is quite explanatory. And finally, we have a button over here which will actually move back to the index page. So now this here in this case, the home and index, which right now does not display any listing. So this will be changed, but I will add a code later. For now, this will be ASP.controller, not home, but this will be blog post and index. So let's now run this project module, and we should be able to see the details and also the option to add comments. So here I'm on blog post, and here when I click on details, okay, so there's an exception over here. Okay, so there's an issue over here. Let me just identify. Okay, my blog model blog post and details queries. Blog post. Async task method. Okay, I think so. Let me go to the controller, block controller, sorry, not the model, but the controller. And okay, so async task. So I've forgotten to mention await. So this was the issue, I think. Let me run it again, once again. And blog post details. Yes. So now you can see the details page. This is a blog title published by admin, published on this date. This was the content. Comments, no comments yet, but an option to add your comment is visible. And this will code it right now. We'll add a controller. Now back comes to, so basically, more or less, we have completed the main functionality of adding the comment. Now on the home page, we'll display the contents, but before that, we will add the comments functionality. And then we also need to proceed and add the login and registration functionality and add those menus over here. So let's do that quickly. So first thing we're going to do is that in order to build the comment functionality, let's add the comments controller. Right click on the controller, say add controller, and this will be an empty controller, and let's name this as comments. Okay, so now let us quickly add the functionality here. This will be private read only log db context class underscore text, and let's create c2 tab and log db context, and then pass it to this class. This is done. Now let's create. So what we're going to do is that we're going to create a post method. We should actually add comments to the log. So this will be http post and valid anti-forgery, and this is public async task my action and create. Now here we're going to pass int id, then we're going to pass the username user, and then we're going to pass the contents post content. Okay, so let me just be very specific. This is post ID. Okay, so these are the parameters for adding a comment to the post. Now, once that is done, what we're going to do is that add a validation. If string dot is null or empty, okay, null it is null or white space. Let me white space. This is user, okay, or string dot is null or white space content. So we are going to say and we store that into our temp data for validation. This will be error, and we're going to say name and comments cannot be empty. And we're going to say return redirect to action, and this will be details, and this will be post. This will be new ID, and this will pass the post ID. Otherwise, if things are good and users have entered the comment, we are going to say where comments is new comments. Okay, and this we are going to pass the post ID. Let me just go and see what is the property for comments. So we have ID of content. So we should able to pass this. This me say using analog dot model. Maybe it's not recognizing this. Post ID for the user and content. Just not able to recognize this view. Let me just see what's the problem. Okay. Okay, so I guess let's have to rename this as a controller class. So I forgot to, I just removed the controller from there. So now comments of controller, that is right. But that should be not reason for not recognizing my comments model. Yes. Yeah, so that was the issue. I just added the controller comments, but I removed the controllers. So that was the issue. So now author is user, which is passed in the parameter. Then content is content, which is passed in the parameter. And obviously created date will be default date time dot UTC. Okay. So we have done, we have created this object. Now we will just call our context class at comments dot add, and we are going to pass this comment variable having this value. And finally, we're going to say await underscore context dot save changes async. So we are using this temp errors datas or success. We will use this later. For now, we are going to save this success, and this will be comments added successfully. And then we are going to redirect to the, we are going to say return redirect to action details, and this is blog post new post ID. So let's, this is this is not context, this is contents. Okay, or let me say it as comments, user comments, so that, but that in that case, I'll also have to change the view over there. So let me go ahead and go to the details view. Here you can see name is user comments. Make sure that you make those changes. Otherwise, it will be not able to pass the value from view to the controller. So now let us go to the comments controller at the breakpoint because our things are ready. Let's also add this functionality now. Let's add a comment on a blog. So here I'm going to say blog. I'm going to say details. Alex. Nice article. Okay. And let's submit. So it comes over here, it checks the validation. Username is there. The post ID is passing. User Alex. Comments is user comments. Nice article. Current now. And add this comment. I think so it's got successfully added. Oh, but there's an error occurred while saving the CSV, the inner exception. Cannot insert explicit valid identity column comments. So identity insert is set off. Let me go to the blog page, like model here and the user. I don't know why it is. So let me go to the database and go to the comment table, right click design. So you can see the ID over here, and there is a feature called, so we already added incremental C to 1. So this error should not occur. But let me go over here again. So what are we doing? We are actually post ID. Okay, 1 minute. This is the post ID and this is the ID. Okay, so ID, so this is post ID. This is not the table ID. This is post ID because we need to pass the post ID for this comments, the comment table. If you see the comment table, this ID is auto incremental. We need to pass it over here. So I was actually passing over here, and since the identity specification on, it is throwing that error. So now it should not throw that error. Let's go and run the application again. Click on details and Alex, nice article, and click on submit. So now ID is passing over here, add it, and now it's got successfully saved. If you go to the table of comments and say select all, you should be able to see the comment of Alex. And let's go back from 10, sorry, and this F10, it will redirect to the blog post. Okay, so it got successfully added. You can see the comments is added over here. Let me add one more comments. I was able to pass my exam by reading this post. Thank you, Digital TechJoint. Okay, click on submit, and I'm going to remove the breakpoint, and you can see things in action. You can see one more comment got added by Regina. So our details is working, edit is working, delete is working, and even our listing page is working, and even our blog creation page is working. Now what we need to do is that add the menus and also add the login functionality and registration. So let us go ahead and create the login functionality first and registration, and add that session management into our application. So before we start the login and registration functionality, let's go and visit the view model. Sorry, the model class, that is a user. Now in here we have the ID, name, email, as password as the created date. So what we're going to do is that we are going to create a view model. So why do we create a view model? Basically, we create a view model so that it's a separate class designed or designated to pass data between the controller and the view. It serves as an abstraction layer between the entity class and the view model. So let's, for this particular user, let's create two view models, one for login and one for registration. So right click on the model and let's create the first class as registration. That is the first class. Let's create a view model as registration. So let me create a class name as register view model. Okay, now we are going to use the same property that we have defined in the user model. So let's create public string. We can also create prop tab, and here it creates the property string, and then this will be name, and then we have prop tab and this will be string, this will be email, and then we have the password, like string password. Let me drop a string password, and then let's create one more property, prop string confirm password. Okay, so this is created. Let's also add validation to it, and we are going to also add validation to our existing models, that is post. So let's start that from this login functionality. So this is required. Okay, even email is required, and even password is required. Now here we'll also add one more data annotation saying that this is a type of password. So data type, say data type dot password. Similarly, we'll copy this both and use it for confirm password. We can also add a validation that if password and confirm password are not matching, then we throw an error. So we use compare and we say password and then error message. So this confirm password will compare against password property, and the error message is password do not match. So there is here I'm not in the double quote. Okay. So this is the validations that I can use. By default, data annotation is added once I add this validation. Now, similarly, I'm going to create one more view model as login. So this will be my login view model. Okay, and I'm just going to copy certain things from here. That is email and password. So I just copy everything and go to login view and paste this. I'm going to keep email and password. Okay, so I've kept email, which is required, and password. So our view model for login and registration is ready. Now let us create the controller. I'm just to close all tabs and I'm going to create the controller now. Right click on the controller and I'm going to create a controller, sorry, not a class, a controller and empty one, and this time I'll not make a mistake of removing the controller, and I'm going to call it as account. So here I'm going to reference the data context class log db underscore context. I'm going to create a constructor log db, and this is a context class. So now I'm going to create an action result. I'm going to create a view. So going to call it as register. So I'm just going to copy this index and here I'm going to name it as register. Okay. And this will I'll create a view. Right click add view. This will be register. So this will have the registration. We have simply copied that razor pages code. So this is nothing but action button, register, and this as name, email, password, confirm password that we had entered in the model class, that is register view model class. Now what we're going to do is that we are going to create this action register, which should be a post method. Let's go to our account controller, and here I'm going to create a post method. This will be HTTP post, and I'm going to say obviously add the validation firstly, and then this will be public async task my action result register and register view model, and this is the model class. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that check if model state okay is valid. I'm going to return view, then and check the email. I want to ensure that the email is not already registered in the database. If and test, I'll go dip the user table dot use the lambda expression dot email equals to model dot email. So I'm going to throw an error message stating that model state dot add model error email, and I say email is already registered. If it's also such, and then I'm going to return the model again. Okay, so now once this is successfully done, I'm going to say string password hash. I'm going to hash the password for security reason, and I'm going to say hash password. And pass model dot password. Now this method I need to create, so that I'll create. Let me create this method first so that it will not throw any exception. So here this I'm going to say private string hash password, and this will be string password using var .256 .256 dot create. This is capital. The error is thrown because we are not using the required library, that is cryptography library. So if you can see using system.cryptography, so once that is added, the error is gone. And then we are going to say bytes and 256 compute hash encoding dot. So here, since we are using encoding, I think so we need to also add the reference. That is why we are not getting the option to encoding. So this will be system.test, which is not there. System.text. So now we'll be able to use encoding. So here you can see encoding dot utf8 dot get bytes password, and finally we say return convert to base 64 string and bytes. So now you can see this we have created a method for um, basically to hash the password. Now once that is done, we'll go back to our code on creation. So we'll continue with here. We say where user new user. This is our base model class or entity class, and we said that we are passing name as model dot name from our email dot model dot email comma password hash is from the top, that is this one. So we have created this colon over here, semicolon, and then finally we say add this user underscore contest dot users dot add, and we say user. Okay, and then we say await test dot save changes and sync. So once this is done, remember to add this user to the session. So for that, in order to add session, what we need to do is that before we do that, go to programs and then here app dot add use session. This is very important to manage session. Come back to your account controller. Here we're going to say store session for login. Okay. So here say HTTP con HTTP context dot session dot set string. So this will be our user email, and we're going to pass model dot email, or not model, user dot email. And similarly, we are going to pass the username also because we want to display that. So we are going to say user name, and this will be just name. So this property method variable we are using it over here. So once everything is done, we are successfully added. We will say return the direct to action and index, and this will be home. So now if you see, once we add the user, okay, this is lead. This is pushing us back to the home page, which does not right now display anything. But this will display the all the blog posts. So let me add a breakpoint over here, and let's add user to our tables, and then we'll add the login functionality. Unable to resolve service session. So clearly the error is because I'm using the session, but I have not added the session. I'll just break this breakpoint. Now before the app.build, I'm going to say builder.services.add session. Okay. Now we'll run the application. Now here I'm going to say slash account and register. Here you can see the registration screen over here. So I'm going to register Alex at alex@yahoo.com. Password is Alex. Click on register. So now let us see how things go about. So model is valid because we have all the information provided to it. Okay. Now it is checking whether we already have Alex in database. We don't have. It is creating an hash. So here you can see it's created an hashing of the password so it's not visible to the naked eye. And then we are passing the name, email, and hash password. We are adding that user. It got saved. And the session is also maintained and redirected to the home page. Now this is the home page where we right now don't have any information. We will add code to display the blogs over here. So let me just go to users and just select, and here you should be able to see Alex as well. So we have successfully added a new user to the table. Now let us go ahead and in the controller method add the login screen as well. So let me first add the view for login. And when is the login return view. Let's create a view for this. Here you can see now under accounts, view accounts, we have two login. I'm going to, so here we added the login view model, and here we are first checking. So this is a validation that I had added. We'll see that on the errors that will be displayed when somebody logs in, and if there's a wrong username password, that will be displayed over here. So let's focus on this. This is a form action login. It's a post method. We are passing the email and password, and we'll click on submit. So we will add this method action post method now so that our login functionality is also ready. So you go to the account controller and you will just copy. Let me not just add it, just copy this method, entire stuff. So this is also post, and just paste that below the login view. And this will be login. Okay. And we'll pass the model that is login view model. Instead of register, this will be login view model. Now, first we are checking this validation of the state. If everything is fine, what we need to do is that where user, this is await underscore context dot user dot first or default async, and here we are passing lambda expression in dot email goes to model dot email. So we are first checking whether the email is valid. If the email is not valid, we are going to throw an error message. We are going to say if user is equal to null or verify and we are also going to if it is null, and we are also going to also validate the password. So we're going to create a method called verify password, and we're going to pass the password from the model, that is password. Okay, that is passed the text in the model class. Okay, so and then we're going to say user dot password hash. So this is, so once we have the user details, so I'll explain to you once. So we are actually fetching the user based on the email first. So this object will have the all the user details. Then we are making sure whether the user object is null. If it is null, obviously there is no user found. Otherwise, we are also checking whether the password is valid. So how we are doing that? So this model has the user inputted password, and we have the database hash password. So we're comparing both the user input password and the hash password. If it is matching, then only it's a valid authentication. So I will just create this verify password method right now. So I'm going to just remove all these things from here. Okay, And here below, I'm going to create a verify password method. So this will be private boolean veri verify password. This will string entered password, that is entered by user, and this is stored in database, stored hash password. I hope you guys are understanding. And simply we are going to say return hash password. Hash password is the method that we created, and here we are going to enter entered password. So this will convert that into the hashing, and then we have the stored hash. So stored hash password. If both this password matches, the one the user entered and the one that is stored in the hash format, then only we will validate the user. So basically, if somebody enters ABC and registered in the users, then ABC will be converted to hash and stored in some value. Now, next time the user comes in and enters the password as ABC, first we'll convert that ABC into hash and then compare against the already stored hash in the database. If both the things match, then only we are going to allow the users. That's simple as that. So now what, once we verify the password, if it doesn't match or so, then we're going to throw an error. So we're going to say model state dot add model error. You're going to say invalid email or password, and then say return view user. Sorry, return view model. Okay, if things go well, we are now using the same method to store the email and the username, and then we redirect to the. So now let's test this as well. So this is accounts, and this time this is login. Here we can see the login screen. We had created alex@yahoo.com, and password was, say what, let me enter the wrong password and say login. So here we have the model. The model has the password. Now it will first go ahead. So this model state is valid. Now it is going to check. So here I'm going to say F11. So it is now entered this one, and the hash key is this. Obviously it doesn't matches, so there's issue, there's an error, and so it is not validating. So say invalid email and password. So let me just correct its password. Now let me enter a valid username password. Okay, so now accounts not register is login, and let me enter a valid username password Alex. So now it is validated, it's matching, it's storing that session in the user session and then redirecting to the home screen. Cool. So now everything looks good. Now what we need to do is that before we add the login and register in the menu, let's restrict access to the post or creating post by the user. For that, what we are going to do is first we are going to add those menus into our application. So I'm going to add, go to shared layout, and here I'm going to add the menus over here. Right now we have home and privacy. So we're going to update this. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove this both and paste this. So this is nothing but the home controller. This is home and index by default. Here we have blog post and view post. So post is like, view post or view blogs. And then we have a blog post and create post. So now let's run this and let's first see the menu. So now you can see home, which is the screen, then view blog, we can see that we have all the blogs over here that will be create is the screen that will be displayed over here. Now, first thing we need to do is that we need to first update our modules and remove the hard coding user ID that we are passing. For that, let's go ahead and first go to the block controller. Okay. Sorry, the block controller over here, right over here. And in the create, we need to ensure that the user has logged in, and nobody will be able to create a new blog unless they have logged in. So let's do that. So you remember this line that I had added by default, we're adding is just comment this. Now we have already storing that username, user email in the session. So what we need to do is simply say string dot is null or empty and say http context, okay, dot session dot get string, and here I'm going to pass the variable that I had created, user email. Okay, so if I don't get the string, then I'm going to say temp data. I don't have to say this right now. I can simply say return redirect to action, and this will be my login page that I created, and this will my controller will be account. That's it. This is a simple line of code that I need to write in order to protect from someone entering. Now, one more thing. So once I do this, I also need to now. So this is my listing page. So sorry, this is my create page, but I can also do that in my listing page. So if you go to index, which displays it, I can also paste this over there. So let us see things in action. Here in the create also, I'm pushing the user to the login page, but I need to pass this over here. So that I need to fetch it. So in order to do that, I can also do right away. I'll just modify the code over here so that we get the user ID. So get the here instead of passing, I am going to say get the user login details. So email, sorry, string user email is, I can just copy this till here, paste it over here. Okay. So once I have the email over here, email address over here, I will say where user details and await underscore context dot users dot first or default async, and you, sorry, is you that email equals to the one that is I've received above, that is over here. So once I have the user details with me, I don't have to pass any hard coding. I can simply say log details dot log details dot user ID is user details dot ID. That's it. We'll also put a breakpoint over here. Now let's see things in action. So now we are going to click on create post and it will redirect. Okay, views. Okay, now it's not create added over here. So if you see view, so let me 1 minute, just 1 minute. So this is the index view blog. So that is the reason when we clicked on the view blog, when you clicked on the view blog, it redirected to the login, but create post is not, because we have not added the code over here. We have added the code to create, which is good. We can still keep this. So we just have to copy this and paste this over here. We don't have to do anything over here. Right now, we don't want to fetch the user ID because this is not the, this is a view. This is a post. So now let's see. I'm sure now it will redirect us to login. So here if I click on view blog, it is, let's go to home. Now click on create. It will say, please log in to create. Great. Plus now let me do one thing. Let me add the login and register in the menu in the layout. That's a very simple code that we will do. So this is the menu that is there already. Okay. I'll just enter below this menu, which is there already. And here I'm going to add a condition. If the user email ID is there, then display the name or else display login and register in the top right and corner. So here I'm going to paste the code and I just explain that. So this is so basically under this we are saying if context or session get email is not none, that means somebody has logged in. If somebody has logged in, we're just simply going to use this code to display the username welcome and the username that I'm storing. Okay. And next, just below next to it, we are going to show the logout button. And since we are using the session, once you click on the logout button, the session will be deleted. Apart from that, we if it is not logged in, then we are showing two buttons over here. That is one is to log in and one is to register. So we are adding the links over here. Let's run the project now. And here you should be able to see the login and register on the top and see you can see login and register displayed over here. So now let us see things in action. Once I click on login, I'm going to log in with Alex. Now once I log in, it will redirect me to the home page. And here you see welcome Alex with the logout button. And I'll be able to also create the post. So when let me click on the I'll be able to view also. Here you can see I'm able to view and I'm also able to create. The sessions is getting managed. Okay, so logout is throwing some exception because obviously that method is not there. Let me just add that over here. Let's go to the account controller and add a method called logout HTTP method. So this will be HTTP post and public I action result log out. Here we need to clear the HTTP session dot clear and then redirect to our index and home page. So let us see this also. Now before we proceed to the last step of displaying all the blocks, okay. So first we say login Alex at the rate yahoo.com Alex. Okay. And let's log out now. So here it's successfully logged out and we are here in the let's create few new users. Willie at the rate yahoo.com. Y, and 1 minute just here you can see password does not match. I had purposely wanted to check the validation is getting fired. Click on register. I'll remove the breakpoint. Okay, so even William is created. So here you can see William. So let me also create one blog for William as well as a user. So I'll just copy this and this is the code. This is the published date. We click on save. You remove this. Here you can see there are two authors and one is admin. So let me also add one more for Alex because that first one was added by admin. Create post. Let me go to my blog and say .NET versus Entity Framework Core. Just copy this Let's copy this one, paste it, and enter the publish date. Click on save. Now you can see there are three posts added. Okay, and we'll now get into, so we are now into the last step where we want to display all the blogs over here in a grid format. But before we do that, let's add some validation to our code, which we have not done. So let's go to our code and go to our model class. So now everything is working. We have the login, registration, session management, and everything is up to date. It's working perfectly. But if we go to our model class, okay, which is blog post, we see that there's no validation and over here. Plus a publish date, it's not validated. It should not take the future date. So in order to add this validation, let's use data annotations and add those validation. Okay, I'll just show that as I did for login view model and register view model. We have to do similar for the post. So here, first is the title. Obviously, it's a required. So need to say required. Then we have required, and we can also add our error message. So here say error message. This will be title is required. Okay. Then also we can add the validation, that is string length. Okay, it should be 100, and error message title cannot exceed 100 character. Okay, then similarly we have error message for content. Okay, so we are going to copy this too. This is under content. Now here we have minimum length. Minimum length should be 10, and say content content must be at least 10 character long. And this is long contents that is required. Okay, now let's proceed with the date. So we have already added, so here there is a published date. Okay, so let's add validation to the published date as well. So this will be obviously this will be required. We need the published date. Blog article published date is required. Also, we want to say that data type is, it's a good practice. So here you want to say data type data type is dot date. This is a good practice. Now I want to also ensure that the date selected is not a future date. For that, we need to do something called as custom validation. So we will do the custom validation over here inside this class. Here only we will do the custom validation. So how that can be done is that we can add a static validation result. Okay, and call it as validate published date. Okay, and this will take parameter date time, published date, and validation and text. Okay, and then this is inside this class. Okay, now what this is going to do is that if published date, which is passed in the parameter, is greater than date time dot UTC now, then it's throw a error message which says that return new validation result and say published date cannot cannot be in the future date. Okay, let me just increase the work area. Okay. Otherwise, it will say return validation result dot success. So once we add, so this is my custom validation that I've added. Now I need to bind that over here. I can simply do that. So I'm going to say, since it's a custom, I'm going to say custom validation type of post, comma, and name of, I'm going to say validate publish date. So we have added this validation over here, custom, and here we have added custom validation type of. So type of post, this is not type of post, this is the blog post. This is the entity name. So this is basically saying it's a blog post, okay, which is this class name and validation. So here we have added this. So this is how we have added the validations over here. Now we will now run the application and also see this validation in action. So there's nobody logged in yet right now, and I'm going to create a post. It will not. Then I'm going to create Billy's account, login, and create a post. Now, once I create a post over here, let me just first see whether our custom validation. So let me remove everything, and you can see the errors are getting popped up. Now I will try to select a future date. So here is a validation of string. So here you can see published date cannot be in future date. So validations are getting triggered. Now what we need to do is that we need to display the blocks over here. Okay, so let's do that. It's a, let's go to our default home page, that is here, index. So here we are going to display the, remove this and display that. We are going to use Bootstrap, which will fetch the data. So first we'll also have to go to the controller of this index. So if you go to the controller class of index, default index, which is here, you have to fetch the logs over here. Let's do that first. So we are going to use this default index to display the data. So first for that, first let me read only log db context underscore context class. Okay, and in this constructor we'll instantiate log db context class underscore context. Okay, and here we are going to simply call it. So here, see here, we are going to, this is blog post. Okay, and this will be async task. This is blog post. So here what we are doing, we're creating a list object blog post, and then we are calling our all the blogs, and we will include the user because it also needs to display the user, and this is a post. So this will fetch all the blogs along with the user that will be displayed in the home page. Now let's go back to our index view page and add the Bootstrap. Since this will be a listing, it's going to list all the models. So we are going to say model list and you're going to say blog post. Okay. And let's paste the code over here. Okay. So now this is the code over here. Now see, basically we have added something called, okay, a text welcome to blog application. And if the blog does not have any value, no post displayed over here. Else, we create a new row and we're going to loop the model. And here we are use the Bootstrap over here to basically display the blog in the grid format. Each row will have three blocks, and it will display the title, it will display the username and publish date. And then if the it will show certain small contents over here with 100 characters, and then it will also give you an option to click like read more. There's a button over here which is placed within this card in the bottom, and once you click on this button details, it will redirect to the no home page. So right now we are not using anything on in the routing, so I'm going to remove this. I'll explain the routing later on. So basically you will see that the blocks is displayed in a grid format. I just zoomed out so that uh, you can see the entire code in one screen here. So a simple code that is written to display all the blocks. So let's go ahead and run this application. So now in the on the home page, you'll be able to see three blocks. Here you can see welcome to blog page. This is the home page which display the blog, and when you click on read more, it will actually display the entire article, and user can definitely comment on it. For comments, I have not restricted for any login. I should be, but it's a part we can enhance this module. Now, when I click on back, obviously it goes to the listing page, which it doesn't allow. So here this year we'll add two more blocks, but the thing is that this is simply a Bootstrap code that actually displays the title, which displays the name and the date, and some text of the blog. And once you click on read more, it will redirect to the main screen. Now I can make some changes. I can increase the width also. So here you can see this is the blog width and height. So here you can see the width is there. I can increase the width to 400 and click on auto reload, save and click on auto reload. Here you can see now it is properly displayed in an event format. Everything is taken care, like all the buttons are displayed at the bottom, irrespective of the text size, and the text size is limited, irrespective of the title and everything. It will show the button in the same screen because that is what the Bootstrap code is doing over here. This is a button that says read more, which is added in the div class and uses the tag empty.auto. So let me add a few more blocks so that you will be able to see how that is displayed. Let me log in with Alex and add another three blocks. Let me click on create post and go to my website. Okay, delete repository. Here you can see the details, and I'm going to select any date, save the post. This is the fourth. Now let me add one more. I click on create. Okay, this is CRUD and save, and then one more post. So now let me go to the home page, and here you can see it's beautifully displayed. So this is how the Bootstrap we have used to display it. It's simply a matter of, as a trick of displaying the grid, and the blocks in the grid, and this is how it will be displayed. And since we have used the Bootstrap, this is responsive. You can see when you can also have a mobile view. You can see it's displayed properly without any issue. So this is how it's displayed. Now if you see view block, so here you can see all the view blocks over there, and you can view it, edit it, and delete it. Then you can create the post. Okay. Now if you see one challenge over here, which you must have already noticed, is that on the home page, when I click on view more and click on back to blog, it goes to my listing page. Okay. Now if I go to my details, so details page here, and then I go to my back to log, it comes over here. So because the detail page is common, it is common here as well. And once you go from here, if you from the home page, it is common here as well. So how do we sort that? How do we sort this issue where we have a single module, but it is called from two different action methods or two different controller? So let me, before I finish this section, let me also add that code over here and add value to this tutorial. So I'll show you how do we do that using the URL referral code. Okay. So let me go back to the first the index page. Okay. So let me go to the blog index page first here. And here you can see there's details. So here I'm going to add the URL route code so that it knows that it has been called from the blog index page. So I'm going to add the ASP.NET helper class, and I'm going to use this. So this ASP-route dot return URL, and here I'm passing at the rate URL.action index and blog post. So basically when I click over here, I'm telling this code that you have been called from the index page of the blog post. Here you can see blog post is a controller name. Now I'm going to do similar with the home page. So go to the home page index. So here we have read more. Correct. So here also I need to add that code, and here I'm going to add this code over here. So this says ASP route return URL action index home page. Now we have added the identifier. Now the last step we need to do is that add code as well. Okay, whenever the page is called, so that dynamically we can use. So if you go to the details page over here, okay, so we need to manage this back button over here, this particular code. Okay. So here in this particular view, we need to manage this dynamically, because now when we click on back button, it goes by default to the controller blog post to the action method. So this will not work. So in order to do that, first we need to manage that internally in the controller class. So since this is the details screen, let's go to the blog controller. Okay, and here let's go to the details screen. Now instead of now we have an ID over here, and we need to also manage the URL. So here I'm going to add additional URL string called return URL, and by default it will be null. Okay. So once I add that, what I'm going to do is that, okay, I'm going to store that over here. So before I pass the view, I'm going to say view back dot return URL, return URL, and I'm going to say return URL, which is there in the parameter over here. Okay, and I'm going to use the condition statement URL dot action to index comma blog post. Okay, so this is the code I'm going to write. So basically, whatever is a written URL, it will pass. If it is null, then by default, it will pass to the blog post. So once I do this, I need to also make the changes in the details view page. So now this, I'm going to comment it because this is hard coded, this is not going to work. And I'm going to place the, the value from the view bag. So now we have a H reference and we are using the view bag, which we had set in the controller class over here. Okay. And then we are going to simply say back. So this has now become a dynamic from where it is called, it will move to that particular module. So let's run now. So this is something I wanted to cover it in the session. I'm sure in the real world project, you might need to do some dynamic routing. So we can use this. So now we are on the home screen. Okay. And I've not logged in. So I'll not be able to see the post, but let me first see how this is working. I click on read more. Okay. Now I click on back. I'm expected to go to the home screen here. Right. Perfect. Let me log in and see where this routing happens. Okay, so now logged in, I'm on the home screen. I click on read more and I click on back. It is coming. Now I click on the view blocks. Now here from here, I'm going to go to details. So I'm expected now when I click on the back, it should go to the listing page. Yes, it's perfectly come to the listing page. So with this, I've created a complete fully functional blog application. I've also covered certain concepts that is will be very useful for the beginners as well as for the advanced users. Now, what are we expecting out of this project is someone who's new to ASP.NET, who's new to, has just learned and want to explore more about routing, more about CRUD operations. So this is a perfect example. Also, I'll be creating one more similar project where I'll be covering the advanced concept like adding images to this blog, okay, and managing the images to the blog and also managing the admin role, because I have created a single user who's actually able to see the view of all the listing on the post as well as able to create the post as so this is not a real world scenario. However, I'll be creating a role based module where the admin will have rights to create a post, in a sense, validate the post. So you as a user can come and create the post. However, it will float to the admin bucket where he will validate all the post details and then approve it. And once he approved, then it will be displayed over here. Also, we will be creating some certain controls, like we will be creating a rich text control over here where you can modify the format, the text that is entered, make it bold, italic, and underline it. Also, embed the image so that it looks like a real world blog, like similar to this, where we can see the images are displayed. So these things like can be I'm trying to enhance that particular module where you can explore all these functionalities. So this with this I complete the entire module for you guys, and hopefully you enjoyed it and learned a lot. It was a little bit lengthy because we have created the complete project, a complete real world project we have created, so that is why it was lengthy. And guys, keep watching this channel for the new project that I'll be creating very soon. And thank you for all your love. Thank you for visiting our channel. Please do subscribe my channel, share my channel link with your family, friends, and colleagues. Like my videos, comments on my videos, and help us to grow this digital tech joint channel, which is dedicated for our fellow developers. Thank you so much for your time.